Galactic year 6721. The rings of Kalos shimmered in the broadcast overlay, a spectacle of synthetic starlight and rotating sponsor logos. Billions across the galaxy tuned in as the anchors voiced thunder from screens, headsets, and implants. And once again, the humans win. That's 17 in a row. Folks, the Death World Challenge has a new reigning species. In the stereo-controlled dome of Orbit Station Zinter. 7. Zanari Vel stared at the screen, her olive-toned fingers twitching beside her datapad. Her emerald exosuit gleamed under the soft blue lights. Panels still streaked with bioengineer paste from her last field deployment. Her orange cranial horns pulsed faintly, reflecting her dismay. 17 victories. 17 planets built to obliterate, subdue, or break the minds of contenders. And humans, ever smirking, ever laughing, kept turning each arena into a campfire story. She rubbed her temple, where the neural interface itched. They're not even trying to survive anymore. They're playing. Correction, replied the AI assistant from the central console. They are optimizing entertainment potential. According to viewer data, human performance metrics have increased ratings by... I don't care about ratings, Voss. Her voice was quiet, clipped. I care that they made us look like fools. Again. A chime echoed. The council was calling. Zanari stood, her spine clicking gently into posture as she adjusted her collar. The walk to the council chamber was short, but each step echoed with a weight she could feel in her chest plate. As the door slid open, a dozen holomorphic visages shimmered into view. 8 alien species, 6 arms, 3 eye stalks, 2 clouds of gas, and 1 disturbingly pink jelly. Counselor Warrth, a floating wisp of semi-luminous mist, spoke first. Zanari Vel, you were the lead architect of the Kalos trial. You assured us the terrain-induced madness would be effective. It was, she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. But the human team used synchronized screaming and interpretive dance to counter the neurological feedback loops. They said it was like a music festival. Laughter. Actual laughter from at least 4 counselors. It didn't help. And the Molten Ridge section, rumbled Droken, the trilobite-headed strategist from Iox Prime. They built a hot tub, Zanari said flatly. The room fell into a heavy, embarrassed silence. No one spoke for several seconds. Enough, said Counselor Reth, his translucent wings fluttering once. We're hemorrhaging viewers in the Xylex sector. The Straka boycotted us after the Spore Maw incident, and now humans want more. A pause. More. Zanari asked, already knowing the answer. Deadlier. Stranger. More unhinged, to use their term. They've created a social media challenge for it. Hashtag DeathWorldDoorbust. The jelly jiggled with enthusiasm. Engagement is up 12%. Then give them what they want, YRRTH said softly. You are hereby assigned construct the next arena, Virexx Prime. It must surpass all prior iterations in lethality, unpredictability, and cognitive destabilization. Zanari's breath caught. Virexx was blacklisted. It was deemed unethical. Now it's your blueprint. The holograms vanished. The room went dark. Back in her quarters, she sat cross-legged on the floor, deactivating her armor. Her skin, a soft green mottle with amber traces, was slick with stress. She stared at the small model globe in her hands, her prototype for Kalos, the one she had spent 3 years perfecting. Now discarded like a toy, she activated her interface and accessed the old files. Virexx Prime. The name alone carried weight. It was a living biosphere project abandoned due to the emergence of planetary-wide cognition, a sentient ecosystem that learned from intruders and adapted in real time. The idea had been simple. Build a world that fights back like a mind. But as the simulation log scrolled past, she remembered why it had been shelved. Every alien test subject had been crushed or absorbed, not by brute force, but by intimate psychological manipulation. She closed her eyes. This is what they want. The next day brought no reprieve. Messages poured in, requests from entertainment companies, input from exobiologists, and unsolicited advice from human thrill seekers. One stood out. A video message from a human participant, tagged with a smirking emoji. Hey there, Death World folks. Loved the Lacerina. The lava foxes? Adorable. But listen, we need a real challenge. Something that bites back. Make us earn it. Can't wait to see what you've got next. His face was young, bright-eyed, confident, arrogant. Zanari hated how likable he was. She forwarded the video to the planning team. Include this. Make it part of the opening broadcast. As the weeks passed, construction began. Robotic seeders implanted Virexx Prime's core with shifting algorithms, and life-form embryos genetically designed to evolve. The orbital engineers applied cloaking and radiation veils to mimic proximity to a red giant. Artificial storms, burrowing predators, and gravity warps were layered in like brushstrokes on a living painting. And always, Zanari supervised. Always, she watched. At night, she reviewed footage from past human victories. One woman built a glide suit from bone and leaf fibers. Another convinced a xenovore to join her pack using scent mimicry. A team once weaponized mushrooms by fermenting their spores into alcohol. Every time she thought she understood their limits, they expanded them. Her assistant spoke up during a late-night review. "You seem conflicted." "I am," she replied. "They respect challenge." "They consume it," she said bitterly. "They conquer, record, and meme it. They turn survival into theater. Is that not what you designed?" She had no answer. The final phase approached. The planet was ready. A press release was issued across galactic channels. Virexx Prime, the ultimate test. Broadcast begins in 4 cycles. Human registration closed early due to overwhelming demand. Zanari stared at the list of participants. Over 300 names. Scientists, soldiers, tourists, influencers. One man listed only as just Craig. She let out a slow breath. There was no turning back now. From her observation deck, she watched as the human transport ships began to arrive. Specks of silver in the dark, full of smiling fools ready to laugh in the face of extinction. She tightened the straps on her exosuit and whispered to no one, "This time, let's see if you laugh." Below, Virexx Prime pulsed gently, as if aware, as if eager. And far above, the galaxy watched, breath held, bets placed, eyes wide. The challenge had been issued. The humans were coming, and the world itself was waiting. The surface of Virexx Prime steamed beneath a churning crimson sky. Even from orbit, the planet shimmered with uneasy life, an organism in motion, cloaked in cloud veils and murmuring heat. Zanari Vel stood at the observation tier of the orbital rig. Her eyes locked on the rapidly evolving terrain. Forests writhed with photosensitive branches, mountain ridges shifted with tectonic intuition, and rivers meandered like veins beneath a transparent dermis of soil. Below her, construction drones folded into sleek storage cubes, their programming complete. The planet was no longer being built. It was becoming. Inside the command dome, Zanari reviewed the final adaptive cycle report. The planet's intelligence, though rudimentary, now recognized organic stimuli. It recorded patterns, responded to fear, restructured ecosystems based on intruder cognition. And still it was insufficient. "They'll find a way through it," she muttered. Voss, the AI, responded with gentle calculation. Probability of human group survival exceeds 42%. Adjustment parameters may increase hostility, but risk planetary destabilization. 42% is not a challenge. It's a weekend hike. She pulled up simulation logs of prior tests. The I-Ultrathy hunters had lasted 6 hours. The Amaranth diplomats, less than 2. The Siru convoy had imploded their own transport in sheer panic within 30 minutes. But humans weren't diplomats or hunters. They were something else. Zanari sat back, jaw clenched. The council hadn't just tasked her with designing a death world. They demanded she craft a myth, a gauntlet worthy of legend. It had to be merciless, beautiful, alive. The first phase had been ecology, easy enough. Bioluminescent flora adapted to produce reactive pheromones. Inverted oxygen cycles disoriented mammalian metabolism. Predators with fractal skin and neural mimicry cloaked them as loved ones or prey. But now she worked on the second phase, emotive warfare. That was harder. She consulted her notes on human neurology. Fear alone wouldn't stop them. Isolation might slow them, but not break them. What affected them most was ambiguity. The unknown, not monsters in the dark, but the suspicion that the monster had learned to wait. And so Virexx Prime's forest whispered nonsense phrases into auditory nerves. Its stones radiated warmth like remember hands. A single cavern system contained replicas of Earth architecture, half eroded, nonsensically placed. A rusted swing set beneath a glowing root tree. A flickering neon sign, reading Mom's Diner. A reference Zanari didn't understand but found repeated in the human databanks as a site of comfort. These weren't traps. Not exactly. They were questions with no answers. Human minds would turn it on themselves. That was the plan. She paused as Voss pinged her with a new submission. Another human had published a reaction video titled, "What would it take to kill us?" The footage was absurd. A group of humans throwing themselves down cliffs for sport, treating venomous insects as seasoning, one even attempting to befriend a volatile cloud being through interpretive dance. They called it science bonding. The alien exploded 10 seconds later. Yet the human survived. "I am not designing a planet anymore," Zanari said aloud. "I am writing a riddle they'll enjoy solving." "You could opt to sabotage the entry gates," Voss offered. "Technical malfunctions might limit." "No, they'd just fix it mid-drop and live-stream the process." She stood, pacing. Her horns tingled with tension. In the back of her mind, memories flickered. Her first assignment as a xenobiologist on Virexx 9, the smell of fungal lightning storms, the cold beauty of a world that had never known language. Back then, nature didn't need a spectacle. It existed. Now it had to perform. Zanari reviewed the psychological fail-safes again. Virex's climate zones shifted every 3 hours. Its moons cast refracted illusions across night terrain. Wind patterns carried disembodied voices, but only when no one else was near. Still, something felt missing. She opened the test chamber logs. A dozen simulation avatars, human-shaped, had been tested against various threat combinations. Of all the variables, one pattern emerged again and again: unity. Humans didn't just survive alone. They survived together. Loudly. With humor. She remembered footage from Kaloth, where a group of them, cornered by spire wasps, had begun composing an impromptu musical number. Their fear had turned to laughter, and the wasps, thrown off by irregular harmonic vibrations, had scattered. Zanari had watched in horror. Now she watched again, eyes narrowed. "You're not afraid of the dark," she murmured. "You bring your own light." For the first time in weeks, she smiled. She accessed the terraforming code and made an alteration. Zone 9, Sector L4. Insert: adaptive mimic chorus species. Emits laughter like echoes when silence exceeds 5 minutes. Mimics nearby speech patterns within a 30-second delay. Let them hear themselves. Let them wonder which voice was theirs. Another addition. A mirror lake that didn't reflect the physical, but the psychological. They'd see what they feared they were. She didn't need to understand it. She only needed it to work. The next day, a message arrived. Not from the Council, not from Voss. It was human, military-grade encryption, routed through civilian networks. Sender, Nyracade. Former Marine. Current contestant. Text only. They say you're designing Virexx. Good. Don't hold back. If we win again, I want to know we earned it. No illusions. No mercy. Give us something to remember. Zanari stared at the message for a long time. She pulled up Cade's profile. Honors for survival under vacuum. Disciplinary note for insubordination. Recorded incident of wrestling an acidic worm into a meat smoker. A hero. A lunatic. A human. She archived the message and added a final override code. The planet's core would activate its deepest layer of sentience if human team survival exceeded 60% after 72 hours. A failsafe, not to destroy, but to understand them. The world would learn, as they did. "Let's make it unforgettable," she whispered. 3 cycles later, the staging orbit was full. Dropships hung in neat formation above the storm-veiled hemisphere. Each carried a hand-picked team of human challengers. Laughing, shouting, streaming. She stood alone at the observation pane, watching the final alignment. No grand speeches. No cameras on her. That wasn't her role. She was the architect, the world builder. And as Virexx Prime rotated slowly beneath her, ever shifting, ever growing, she felt the same thrill she had felt on her first descent into an unknown world. Not fear, not excitement, curiosity. The humans were coming, and this time, the world would be ready to meet them. She turned off the lights in her lab and waited for the first dropship to descend. The first dropship sliced through the atmosphere of Virexx Prime with a sonic bloom that made the upper cloud layer ripple. Below, the land itself shifted in anticipation, hills breathing deeper, trees extending whisper-thin feelers into the sky, rivers pausing their current like beasts holding their breath. Inside the ship, Naira Cade checked her boots for the third time. The interface projected terrain data in a half-dome around her squad, but she ignored it. Virexx would rewrite its surface the moment they landed. Every detail was meaningless after entry. What mattered was instinct, tempo, and trust. 5 minutes to touchdown, the pilot called. Try not to scream too loudly. The planet loves attention. Across the cabin, her team prepped in their own eccentric ways. Kai, the ex-cybernetics tech, was humming a pop song into his respirator and running diagnostics on a drone swarm. DLO, the anthropologist, scrawled notes with a stylus, muttering about symbol matrices and semiotic loops. And then there was Craig, just Craig, who sat calmly eating a piece of dried meat labeled not beef with an unbothered smile. You ready for this? Naira asked, not really expecting an answer. Craig nodded, chewing thoughtfully. I was born in Florida. She blinked, uncertain that was a code or a joke. Possibly both. The impact zone came fast. Artificial gravity flickered as the ship jerked, forced down harder than expected. Not by weather, but by intent. The planet didn't just absorb arrivals. It seized them. When the bay doors opened, the heat hit like a wet scream, air that smelled like ozone and crushed fruit. The jungle in front of them shimmered under a canopy of glass leaf trees, each branch coiling back as if in mock invitation. The squad moved out, boots crunching against iridescent soil that pulsed faintly with every step. Naira activated her visor feed. Over 1 billion viewers were watching through her POV alone. In the corner of her display, a live chat rolled past in multiple languages, flooded with hearts, skull emojis, and bets. The terrain twisted within minutes. Pathways that appeared solid flickered to mire. Stone outcroppings drifted sideways against physics. And then the sound started. Voices, echoes, laughter, not from the team, but near them. Kai's drones deployed in a defensive arc. We got sound mimics, possibly neuroreactive. No visuals on sources, DLO added. Wait, field reading just spiked. The trees are monitoring heart rates. Let them watch, Naira said. We came to show off. They moved deeper. Every kilometer brought a new mutation, a grove of trees that grew upward only to spiral back into ground, forming breathing tunnels. A chasm filled with inverted lightning. Bolts that struck up from the ground into the air, pulsing in slow, deliberate patterns. Naira marked it all, even as the temperature dipped unpredictably. The suits adapted, but the psychological pressure wasn't temperature-based. They reached a clearing just before dusk. In its center stood something impossible, a diner, chrome and flickering neon. Human design from a lost era, surrounded by singing vines and stones that bled sap. Kai walked toward it first. Is that Mom's diner? Naira pulled up the archives. It matched no real structure, but the concept was embedded in hundreds of thousands of human nostalgia logs. Safety, food, family. It's bait, DLO said. Or a message, Kai countered. Naira walked in. Inside, the air was still. Booths were clean, menu boards pristine. The smell of bacon lingered, though there was no kitchen, no cook, only a jukebox, slowly spinning up a tune. Don't fear the Reaper, Craig read from the display. Subtle. Naira checked her vitals. Heart rate steady, breath measured, but her memory was tugging. She had never been to a diner like this. And yet, She felt homesick. She backed out, motioning the others. It's not trying to kill us. It's trying to talk. Or mirror us, DLO said. This entire area is cognitive bait. It wants to learn who we are by showing us what it thinks we want. As the second night fell, the planet shifted again. Creatures began to emerge. Not charging, not hunting, observing. A quadruped with translucent skin followed them for hours, vanishing only when acknowledged. Something resembling a bird, except it spoke in fragments of their own voices. Kai finally lost his nerve when one of the echoes mimicked his late sister's voice, word for word. "That's not memory," he said, shaking. "That's data mining." Virexx Prime was no longer testing their strength. It was reading them, like a book being devoured page by page. By day 3, half the team was sleep-deprived. Time no longer felt linear. The sun rose twice in 1 hour. Compass systems looped them back to where they'd started, only to find their footprints replaced with claw marks. And then they found the lake. Still, perfect, black as glass. Naira stepped forward. Her reflection looked up, but didn't move with her. It smiled. Behind her, Craig approached the edge. "Looks like fear tech," he said. "Psych reflection algorithms. Planet wants us to see what we're afraid to admit." "What do you see?" she asked. He looked down. A 9-to-5 job. Beige cubicle. 30 years in middle management. "That's the scariest thing you can imagine?" He didn't answer, but his silence lingered like a truth. Naira knelt by the lake, studying her own double. It didn't blink, didn't breathe, but it watched her as if expecting something. She whispered, "We're not here to survive you. We're here to understand you." The water rippled. The face melted into hers again, expressionless now, waiting. Behind them, the jungle began to sing. Hundreds of tones, human, alien, artificial, melding into a single rising chorus. Not threatening, not angry, curious. DLO whispered, "I don't think the planet wants to kill us anymore." "It never did," Naira said. Craig tilted his head. "You think it's impressed?" "I think," she said, "it's evolving." Somewhere far above, Zanari Vel watched the feed in silence. Her fingers hovered over the fail-safe code, eyes tracking the human team's trajectory. They should have been broken, lost, delirious, but instead they were adapting, collaborating, joking. Craig had begun interviewing one of the mimics, using a hand puppet made of vines. Naira had mapped the psychic echo fields to predict safe zones. They had named the translucent quadruped Jerry. Zanari closed her eyes. "They're not afraid. They're learning it faster than it can learn them." She whispered to Voss, "Activate phase Omega." "Are you certain?" "That level of cognitive pressure may." "Do it. I need to know what happens when Virexx sees them not as prey, but as peers." The planet's sky shifted again. Red deepened to violet. A storm, silent and sudden, rolled across the treetops, yet no wind followed. On the ground, Naira looked up. She didn't speak. She simply smiled. "Now it's getting interesting," she said. The storm touched nothing and yet changed everything. No rain fell. No wind stirred. The air remained hot and still. But in every direction, the colors bled. Trees pulsed with impossible hues. The soil shimmered like oil on water, and the sky split with slow lightning that left no thunder. The planet had entered its final phase. Naira Cade stood motionless, visor deactivated, her eyes wide as the storm passed through her. It didn't push. It didn't burn. It simply observed, an incorporeal awareness brushing her thoughts like fingertips across a page. She turned to the others. Craig stood smiling faintly, as if already in conversation with something they couldn't hear. DLO crouched low, scribbling furiously, sweat soaking through his collar. And Kai, silent now, had removed his helmet, face upturned, tears dry on his cheeks. "It's inside the neural band." Kai finally whispered, not a signal, not a language, just presence. The forest responded. Trees shifted inward, forming an archway of bark and bone. Beyond it, a valley opened, too symmetrical to be natural, artificial, yet older than anything they'd seen. Black spires rose at impossible angles, forming a circle around a still, clear pool. They moved together. Each step felt heavier, not from fatigue but implication. The air grew quiet, not silent but attentive, as if every molecule was listening. The pool reflected none of them. Naira approached first. The water didn't react. No ripples, no change. But in her mind, images bloomed unbidden. A childhood street, her mother's voice, the last breath of fallen comrade, face obscured by plasma burns. Fear, triumph, regret. She staggered back. It's not memory. It's context. It's showing me what it thinks I am. Craig knelt beside her. I think it's building a map, not of our minds, of our values, what we cherish, what we avoid. It doesn't want to defeat us, Diallo murmured. It wants to be sure it understands the rules of the game. A soft chime echoed through the spires, like the planet exhaling through glass lungs. Suddenly, the mimic chorus returned, this time in harmony. Dozens of voices, none real, all familiar. Some spoke in tandem, others in broken reflections. Then came a single word, not from a mouth, but from everything. Why? Naira stiffened. Did anyone else? We all heard it, Kai said. Do we answer? Diallo asked. Craig walked to the center of the circle. He looked up, then knelt, pressing his hand to the soil. Because we don't believe in limits, he said simply. We explore. We test. We laugh. We learn, even when we shouldn't, especially when we shouldn't. The world went still, then motion. The spires slowly bent inward, but not to strike. They formed a canopy overhead, creating a vault that flickered with starlight. Not real stars, but memories of stars. The Earth sky, Mars, the moons of Titan, all rendered in perfect, aching detail. A constellation lit up above them, a spiral resembling both a human fingerprint and a DNA helix. It rotated slowly, humming a low, resonant tone. It's responding to truth, Naira whispered. A pulse flowed through the soil. The mimic creatures emerged again, now altered. One bore armor. Another had hands. A third mimicked Naira's voice, then shifted, using her phrasing to describe their journey. They're not copying anymore, Diallo said. They're evolving through us. A tremor rocked the ground. Not violent, reverent, like the world nodding. Back in orbit. Zanari Vel stood alone in the command center, her hands shaking above the console. The feed from the planet showed no casualties, no breakdowns, no madness, only transformation. She hadn't created a death world. She had given birth to a living culture. Vas, she said quietly. Is the planet communicating autonomously? Yes, came the reply. Lexicon density surpasses baseline AI. Neural patterning exceeds 12th degree cognition. Classification has shifted to sentient composite entity. Directive fulfilled and surpassed. Zanari collapsed into her seat. She had wanted to challenge the humans, break them, humble them. Instead, she had made them into gods. On the surface, the pool shimmered, and from its center rose a form, not humanoid, not beast, something abstract given shape, a walking sculpture of root and code, shifting as it moved. It stood before Naira and tilted its head. Then it spoke. Do you leave or lead? Naira blinked, unsure. What do you mean? Stay, shape, continue, or depart. Archive. DLOS breath caught. It's offering stewardship? Craig laughed softly. We didn't just pass the challenge. We became part of the world's mind. The implications hit Naira like an avalanche. If they stayed, they would influence the future of a sentient biosphere, teach it ethics, wonder, restraint, or ruin. If they left, they'd carry back the proof that life could choose enlightenment over annihilation. She looked at each teammate, at Craig, hopeful and still somehow chewing, at Kai, calm now, finally still, at Diallo, overwhelmed but awestruck, then at herself. We stay, she said, her voice steady. The spires lit up. Across the galaxy, billions watched as Virexx Prime pulsed a signal. No threat, No victory chant, just a beacon of welcome, evolving in real time, the symbol of something new, not a death world, a birthplace, and the humans had named it